Hello, and welcome to the Tuning In podcast. I'm Dana Evans, your inner voice and emotional support coach. In this podcast, we explore the deep wisdom that lives in our bodies, emotions, and inner voice. Together, we'll shed the layers that no longer serve us, creating space to tap into the flow of life and experience true ease. So, are you ready to join me? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. I'm really excited to talk about today's episode. We are talking about the 3 core components in order to have an emotional release. This is a really good topic. It's really simple. I'm bringing it up today because I feel like a lot of people come to me and say that they feel like they need to release, or tears keep prickling, or they feel like they just have emotion inside and they can't access it. What do you do? One of the first things I tell them is about the 3 core components that are required in order to have an emotional release. If we're missing these components, it is very likely that your body isn't going to let go of the emotional charges that it is holding on to. But first, I want to give you a couple of updates. First and foremost, I am feeling so much better since being sick that I talked about in last week's episode. One of the things I talked about is after I'm sick, I like to do a full clean out because I feel like the sickness cleans out my insides. When I'm taking all those supplements and taking care of myself in the ways that I described in that episode, that's doing like an internal clear out, and I'm rehabilitating my internal self. And afterward, I really like to do a cleanup in my external space. So the room that I was sick in, getting rid of all the tissues, washing the sheets, cleaning the bedroom, taking a full service shower, all of that. I did that, but I did it probably a day too early. I think I got overzealous and I did it on Thursday. Then I got really tired and felt a little woozy, and I was like, oh God, I overdid it. I did this a day too soon. I don't know if that ever happens to you, but if I'm starting to feel better, I have to watch out that I don't push myself too hard when I just barely start feeling better, because that can actually reverse my progress, where I can do a little bit when I start to feel better, but not get overzealous. Anyway, because I took care of myself, I came out of all of this feeling much better. Monday, John and I did some yard work. Our yard is looking so good relative to where it started at the beginning of the summer, which was a giant dirt pit. So now we are really making progress. We laid some native grass seed. We got flagstone put in. We got the metal edging where the garden beds are going to be. We got river stone to help with the flow of water when we get the monsoons. And I got some rose bushes and bergamot. It's going to be so exciting. It's a long-term project, I remember that, but we did spend some quality time in our yard on Monday. Then on Tuesday, I woke up at 6 a.m. I felt well rested, and my whole body was like, it's fall. We're ready for fall. It was imagining structures and new ways to structure my days and routines and ways to flow between work and living, adding back in some of my workouts. It just felt really good. But I woke up feeling really clear, really crisp, really excited for some structure and routine, and ready to share this audio course with you. I'm so over talking about the audio course and not doing it, because this has been on my heart for quite a while. My mind turned it into this big ordeal, as our minds like to do. This morning, I was doing some inner voice work. As I checked in with my inner voice about the audio course, my inner voice was like, can you just release it? Can you just do it live with a group of people who are ready, that doesn't require a ton of marketing, a ton of shenanigans? What my inner voice told me was, this is a very exciting creative project that you get to release, And the more you delay it, the more you build it up, the more it's going to lose the excitement and momentum and effectiveness. So it is time to release it. So what I've decided, per the guidance of my inner voice, is to start it live. I am guessing, I don't have a solid date yet, but I'm guessing we're probably going to start the last week of September. I'm going to open up a Telegram group, and everyone who joins will be in the Telegram group. I will release daily audios for the Emotions Decoded program. That's what the audio course is called. It's called Emotions Decoded: Discover the Root Causes of Anxiety, Anger, and Sadness with a 14-day audio training. Through a unique 4-step process, you'll learn how to find relief from these emotions the moment they arise without having to spend hours analyzing why you feel that way. We don't have to think all about it. We're actually going to feel into it and clear the emotions as they come up. So we're going to get daily lessons and daily embodiment, because what I have found, the most effective way to clear emotions is to stop freaking talking about it and thinking about it and create the practice and routine every day to dive in. I have 2 processes that I'm going to walk you through. One of them we've talked about on this podcast is the stop, look, and listen process. That's the process that's going to actually get you into your body every day. Then I have my other 4-step process within the program where you actually access the emotion and release it live while you're feeling it. That is the program. It is going to be in a Telegram group. We're going to have a live Q&A together for everyone who's joining. We might do 2 depending on the demand. You're going to get a daily audio and a daily clearing so that you can truly build the emotional clearing muscle. Because this is such a deep and expansive world, but this program is your entry point into it, because I have seen over and over again that the mind has so much resistance to getting into the emotions. And so if you are not really being diligent about your emotional clearing, the mind is going to suppress, avoid, ignore, analyze, and do everything in its willpower to not address the emotions. And then it's going to run around looking for strategies and how-tos and other people's minds' information on how to fix what's going on internally, when what they really need is to pause, drop into the body, and address what is present in the moment. And that is what this course is designed to do. It is an active embodiment. Yes, there is some training. Yes, there is some simple teaching and education just to get your mind on board with what we're doing. And it's really about the embodiment and the living of it. For me, whenever I'm doing something live, whenever I have something that's going to ping me every day, it's so much easier to do the thing. I know I should do this, but when there's a group attached to it, or there's an email that's coming through, or there's Dana voice memoing you, it's going to be that reminder of, okay, I know my mind is in resistance, and if I can just drop in, start with the first minute, which leads to 5 minutes, which maybe will lead to 10 minutes. You're going to get that practice. That is the best way that I know how to support you, is to help you create a routine and ritual of this work. And that is what we're going to do together. So I would love for you to join me. Again, it's called Emotions Decoded. We're probably going to start at the end of September. If you're interested, the URL is... Do people say URL anymore? That's so funny. You can find it in the show notes, of course, or on my website at alignful.com/audio. And that will have the purchase link for the audio program. I'll be running this live. We're going to have it in the Telegram group. Every day I'm going to release something, and then you'll be able to respond and share in the group if you want, but you'll have that access to the audio. And then I'll take all of the audios once we're complete, and I'll put them in a place where you have access to them so that you can return to them. That is what we're going to be doing. I would freaking love for you to join me. If you've been curious about my work, if you've been wanting a taste of, okay, listen to Dana's podcast, I might want to do more of this work, but my mind doesn't know what to do. Like, this is the program for you. It's an intro level program. It gives you the embodiment work that you need, and it's helping to build the emotional release muscle within you and build that relationship between you and your body so that emotions no longer feel scary and inaccessible, but they feel like, okay, oh, this is an emotional charge that's coming up. I'm feeling resistance. I'm annoyed. I'm freaking out. This is an emotional charge. Let me address it right now in the moment and free it so it doesn't keep building up and creating chaos and stress and drama in my life. You don't need to carry that with you. Not every situation has to be stressful. You don't have to be carrying this low level of stress or anxiety or depression or anger with you at all times. You can move it through. And the more we start to do it, the easier it becomes. And that's why I'm working with those 3 core emotions, anger, sadness, and anxiety, is because those are what I see more and more often causing trouble for people, whether it's conscious or unconscious. They are leading the ship. And so we want to free those so that you can really connect to your inner voice and be guided from that energy of peace, ease, joy, versus the energy of fear, anger, anxiety, sadness. So I would love for you to join me. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can text this episode in the link in the show notes, or of course, send me a message on Instagram at Dana_Evans. But this is going to be a live group. It's going to be so fun. So if you have the inkling, if you have that nudge from your inner voice, if you feel a sensation in your body, ooh, maybe this is for me, trust that and let's do this together. I'm so excited to do this with a live group in this audio format because it's going to make it really easy for you to do on the fly. The audios are going to be less than 10 minutes a day, and it's going to be really practical and tangible and digestible. So it's not going to be an overwhelming experience. It's okay, I log on, I listen to my 10-minute audio, I feel it, and release what's coming through, and then I carry on with my day with so much more ease and grace than I was experienced before. That is my intention for you. I am so excited that it is time. Let's do it. So Emotions Decoded, we're going to start live at the end of September, and we are open for sale. And I might do some fun things, but definitely we're going to do a bonus Q&A for anyone who joins this first round. So, with that, this week's episode is also very supportive when it comes to Emotions Decoded, because when it comes to an emotional release, we need to have 3 core components working with us in order to experience the release. Not to say we all don't have spontaneous outbursts of emotion. We don't have like spontaneous breakdowns and things that feel like they come out of the blue. I want to caveat with that because I know when we talk about emotional release, what's interesting about this work is it's okay, we're doing this in a controlled environment. And your body, your system, your inner voice are always knowing what is best and highest for you at any moment. So sometimes, even if you're not quote unquote planning a release at that time and you're not sitting down to do a release, you might end up getting one. That is the example of I am cleaning up my room, making the bed. There's some lingering frustration in my system that I haven't dealt with. And then all of a sudden I stub my toe and I lose it and I break down in tears and all the pent-up emotion suddenly comes flooding to the surface and I move through an emotional release. That was an unplanned release. But that also is able to happen because of these 3 core components. The core components are space, safety, and time. So we're going to go through each one and talk about how they all relate and also why each individual one has value. So the very first one is space. Think about your day, think about your life, think about your schedule. How much space do you have? How much downtime do you have? And when you have downtime, what are you actually doing with it? This is the example of you might go on a daily walk, but maybe you always listen to a podcast or you're always talking on the phone when you're on your walk. Or maybe you love to go outside, as I've been doing lately, and sit on your porch swing and you always read or you're always multitasking when you're there. Or you have kids and your whole life is going from sport event to practice to sleepovers to grocery store to cooking dinner to cleaning up to doing homework to putting everyone to bed, and then finally at the end of the day you freaking crash and have to watch TV or zone out on Instagram just to get your sanity back. I hear you. Or maybe you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is grab for your phone and you check your email, you check your text, you check your social media, you check the news. Whatever it is, think about all the moments of your day. First, recognizing and acknowledging if your days are just naturally really full. And then recognizing and acknowledging what you actually do when you do have downtime. A big thing that is missing for a lot of us is space, open space, unscheduled spaciousness. So what that can look like is waking up in the morning and just laying in bed and letting your mind wander. Going out onto your porch swing and laying there and just staring at the sky or feeling the air and enjoying the back and forth sway. Or going on your walk once in a while without your phone or headphones. Or if you bring it, not using it. Or when you're waiting in line for school pickup, like just sitting there and being with yourself and your thoughts instead of scrolling through your phone, playing the music, listening to the podcast, right? Looking at all of these different times throughout the day that we fill it with stuff, particularly we fill it with input. Why this is so important is that emotional clearing is output. So if we need the output, it's very hard to have an output when we're constantly having input, because the input ends up being like a suppressor, a blanket. It's a distraction that we focus on. And when we're focused on that, we don't have the space to focus on ourselves, on our bodies, on the sensation within the body. The sensation and the emotion that is coming up needs to come up and out, and that is an output. So when our days and our lives are so full of input and busyness, there's no space to feel. How many times have you just buzzed through the day and at the end of the day you're like, oh my gosh, I was just a robot today. I don't even know where my body was at. I was up here in my head thinking about the next freaking to-do. I was a machine and I crushed it. I was so productive. But then at the end of the day, it's almost like whiplash, because it's like, where was I? Because I was not in my body. Being in our bodies, being with our emotions requires us to be in the present. It's really hard to do that when we don't have any space to feel. So the most simple part of this requirement for an emotional release is we have to have space to feel. Because otherwise, everything you do is a very productive, very effective distraction, a way of buffering, a way of avoidance, a way of avoiding emotion by being so busy and never having space in our days. I get people telling me that all the time is, I don't want to pause. I don't want to go there because I'm afraid of what's going to come up. I probably shouldn't share this since I'm opening spots for new one-to-one clients, but I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, and she said, I'm looking forward to our session on Thursday. She said, but I know I have some heavy things I want to go into, and my mind is feeling resistance. Even though every time we have a session together, she leaves feeling clearer and lighter and more connected and more joyful. Even though she has that experience, her mind has resistance. It would much rather be busy and distracted and buffer its way through the day instead of going in. That's okay. That's all of our minds will do that. My mind does that. Notice if you're starting to find yourself really busy, really distracted, in a really extreme state of buffering. I talked about this in the freeze episodes. When we're in that state, it's a good indicator that our mind is working on overdrive to suppress emotions that are inside. What we want to do when that happens is the stop, look, and listen process, because we need to address the emotion. Otherwise, we're going to be operating from this functional freeze, stress response. I don't want that for you. But the first step is to create space. And I gave you the examples of, it doesn't mean you have to have an entire day where you do nothing, though that would be amazing. I don't know if the mind would allow that, but there are micro moments when we can start to make more space. I did it today. I went on my porch swing. I wanted to bring my phone. I did bring my phone. And I was like, and I brought my book. I brought all the activities. And I thought, no, I just want to sit on my porch swing. So I put those things away and I just sat there for 5 minutes. My favorite practice for space is at the end of the day, get into bed, do whatever you do before bed. I highly recommend the Workout Witch somatic exercises. I'm so in love with those. I think I have a 15% off code for you guys if you use the link in the show notes. Buy those. So I do a few of those before bed, just a few minutes of that. And then I lie in bed on my back and I breathe into my body and I do a scan. I'm like, what's present? Where is their sensation? Where is their resistance? And I start to breathe into those spaces. Space. Number 2, safety. So the safety component is essential because your body is so wise that if it does not feel safe, most of the time it's not going to release. And so much of our emotional charges that are built up in our systems are stuck there because there's been time after time where you didn't feel safe to release. Every time you didn't speak up for yourself. Every time that someone did something to you that felt uncomfortable and you're like, I'm not allowed to say anything. I can't do anything with that. Every time you get angry and someone tells you to calm down. Every time you feel sad and you're like, buck up, just start to feel better. You don't have time to feel sad. Every time you feel anxious and you push through. Every time you're exhausted and instead of resting, you power through a to-do list. All of that stuff is because the body wasn't feeling safe, either consciously or unconsciously. It didn't feel safe to release and it got stored in the body. It got suppressed. Just like a beach ball in the water, we can hold it down. It feels safer to keep it together. It feels safer to be in control of but all of that energy that goes into suppressing is taxing on your system. Think about that. That is so much energy directed inwards of trying to keep it together. Think about all the times you feel the emotion bubble and it's like, nope. Can't do that, can't go there, whether it's actual safety, there's real legitimate times where it's not safe, and then there's perceived safety and conditioned safety where you're thinking, I'm not allowed to be that way, I'm not allowed to speak that way, I'm not allowed to feel that way. The longer we try to suppress, we try to hold that beach ball underwater, the more tired we get. It wears us down, and at some point, we can't hold it anymore, and then boop, the beach ball comes flying up like a freaking volcano. And then we spew emotion on everyone. And then we're like, oh my God, this is so unsafe. I need to control my emotions. So then we go back to suppressing. You see how that cycle works? Very different than the emotional wave cycle, which I will talk about in the Emotions Decoded audio program. But that is a smoother, gentler, longer cycle versus the suppress, explode cycle, which a lot of us are living in that highly reactive cycle of we're numb and we suppress and then we explode and we're reactive. And it's very dysregulating for you and for the people around you. And I get a lot of people coming to me saying, I feel like I had no control over my emotions. I get the people who come and say, I feel nothing. I have no emotions. I would love to have some emotions, please. And then the people who are like, my emotions feel so out of control. I'm a basket case and I feel so chaotic because of them. That's that suppress, explode cycle. When it comes to safety, we really need to create safety within our bodies. So many of us are constantly seeking safety externally. It's like, I want information to keep me safe. I want money to keep me safe. I want this partner to be my definition of safety. I can buy things and that's going to make me feel safe. Or I'm going to control my diet and that's going to make me feel safe. There's a million ways that we're consciously and unconsciously trying to make ourselves feel safe. Of course, we're humans. That's a core need of ours. And there's a really beautiful thing that happens when we start to turn to the body and create safety within ourselves, because our nervous systems, when they're dysregulated, we're looking externally for safety. I'm feeling dysregulated. I feel unsafe in myself, so I need something else to create safety because I am unsafe. That's when I need the weighted blanket. Put the weighted blanket on me to calm me down so I can feel safe. That's a very different experience, because then every time the weighted blanket is removed, I feel vulnerable and unsafe again. And I'm like, no, give me my thing. And then maybe that weighted blanket isn't heavy enough and I need a heavier one and I need more weighted blankets. It's a constant seeking of safety, and it's never true anchored, rooted safety. But when we teach our bodies and train ourselves to feel safe within the bodies, that becomes a much more stable starting point for emotions. Because if the mind is afraid of emotion and the mind generally feels unsafe, of course it doesn't want to experience emotion. Mind's like, A, I feel unsafe generally, and B, my emotions feel unsafe and unknown, because the mind fears the unknown. Then why would the mind or body allow emotions to move through? Because that feels unsafe, and safety is going to trump emotion. I like to create safety by starting small with the emotion. So we do a little bit and we're like, okay, how's the body feeling? We do somatic work. Okay, how does that create safety in the body? We do inner voice work. Inner voice, what does safety feel like to this person? We really dive in through that inner world of creating safety first, and safety with experiencing emotions in a controlled, safe environment, which is also like in the physical space that you're in. I'm not going to have you do an emotional clearing session when you're in the airport. Like, you could, but that doesn't feel very safe. You're exposed, there's a million people, it's loud, there's like chaos, there's all this stuff. But if you're in your bedroom, in your bed, under your favorite blanket, and the blinds are closed, you might feel really safe and contained. If you do that and you're able to move through one micro emotional experience, then you come to the other side of the emotional wave and you feel calm and even more safe. Then it's like, oh, that wasn't as scary. It felt scary at first, but now I've gone through it and it doesn't feel as scary. So see, we're building safety externally and internally, and through actual experience of a positive reinforcement of an emotional release. The next one, this is the one that we have the least control over, is time or timing. So someone actually asked me this recently of, I have a big emotion I want to release. How can I basically, like, how can we guarantee I'll release it in our session? And my response is, I cannot guarantee that. I'm so sorry to say. I'm the facilitator and guide, but I am not your body. Where the mind likes to direct and control, and it works by outcome and result based on what it wants and needs, the mind is not the one that is in control of emotional release. That is not the mind's job. It is the body's job to process and release emotion. The body's timing, I'm sure you have found this for yourself, is not the same as the mind's timing. The body works well with the mind. It works well with the inner voice, but it has its own timing. When it comes to an emotional release, your mind might think, I need to release the stress around the fight that I had with my best friend. Mind comes to the session, this is what I need to release. We're like, okay, great. That's a good starting point. Thank you, mind. We can sit down and go into that. And the body's only going to bring up what is safe and ready to be released in the moment. Remember, this is something that happens in the present moment. So it might be able to access what's going on with the friend, but it also might have other stuff that is coming up that needs to be processed first before it feels safe for your whole system to process the bigger thing. See, again, this is the chunking down and bite size of emotions when it comes to releasing. So often we avoid because something feels so big and daunting and we have a big story around it. But we can drop in and start to release smaller emotional charges that will reinforce the safety in our system that like, oh, this is an okay thing. We keep creating space. We keep building safety. When the timing is right, we will have space, we will have safety, and we'll be able to fully process and release the bigger things that are within. So you can see how they're all connected. We can create time and space to do it. We can set aside time. I'm going to do emotional clearing today. I'm going to join a session today. I'm going to have a deep experience with Dana today. I'm going to do this for 5 minutes on my own today. And the things will come up as they're ready. This is the hardest thing for the minds that I see, is that the mind is not in control of this experience. It doesn't mean the experience is out of control. We're doing this in a controlled environment as much as we can, but the mind doesn't dictate the outcome and the timing. That's why I like to say is the mind often comes with the specific things it wants to deal with, which is great. As you build the trust and safety, we can often get there. And you don't actually need to know what you're processing or why you have an emotion in order to clear it. It can help. It can also sometimes cause more problems because we start talking about it, obsessing about it, spinning about it, thinking about why, what happened, how do I fix this? We're in the head instead of the body. So it can actually be more difficult when we've thought so much about an emotion or a situation that is charged. We don't actually need to know the what and the why. What we need is to feel it, to sense it, to be present in our bodies, and then it's going to reveal itself. We might not exactly know what the emotion that is moving through and out is connected to. That doesn't matter, because the more we're starting to clear these charges that are built up, the more seamless we feel in our systems and our bodies, and the more access we have to the deeper, heavier, darker, more intense, hidden emotional charges that are also causing a lot of stress in your life. We can't control the timing, but we can build a relationship with ourselves, with our emotions, and with our inner voices so that when the timing is right, we're ready for what comes. Because a lot of times, timing sometimes feels right and like an emotion comes up, and then the person, the mind, the system even, doesn't feel prepared or capable of processing what's coming through. And so what happens is the system then shuts down. It shuts down the emotional experience because it feels too overwhelming, right? We have to build the muscle. So we have to start with the 5-pound weights. Then we go to the 10-pound weights. And then we do maybe a 10-pound weight on one leg, rebuilding that tolerance for experiencing emotions. At first, it can feel like an exposed nerve, like we're just not used to that feeling of emotion because we have so many ways to numb in our society. Oh my God. I'm like, I have to actively not numb. Like, it is so easy to numb. And so when we start to unnumb, when we start to enliven ourselves, it can feel really like it can feel really shocking to the system. As we expand, as our capabilities expand and our tolerance for feeling, the shock doesn't feel so shocking. We can have a totally different experience of what first felt really jarring and shocking. That is the beauty of this work. That is the beauty of emotional processing, is you start to feel better by getting better at feeling. Everyone comes to me and they're like, I want to feel better. And I'm like, great, we're going to get into our feels. And they're like, no, thanks. I just want to feel better. Part of feeling good is having feelings and removing the judgment and criticism about the different emotions. Like, when you can really get to that place, as my inner voice showed me years ago, I was like, inner voice, how do you see emotions? It said, we see emotions like the colors of a rainbow. They're all beautiful and they all serve a purpose and they all have a place. There is no one right, best, or better. The mind may have preferences and desires, like I want more indigo, or my favorite color is red or coral or gold. But that doesn't mean green is a bad color, right? Or that orange is a weak color. That's just things that our minds do and we've been conditioned to believe. But by being able to really move through all of the emotions with less fear, we actually end up feeling better because we get more into our neutral state, which is peace, bliss, ease, joy. We end up spending more time in that state and less time in the reactivity and volatility of different emotions because we can process them, move through them, move through them, whether they're highs or lows or in betweens. And then we actually get the clear, spacious feeling of us, of you, of your essence, that space where your inner voice lives. And again, to have that, we get to play with the 3 core components, which I talked about, which is space, safety, and time. Our topic today, I have wanted to talk about this for so long, so thank you as always for listening. You'll really get this experience through the Emotions Decoded program. It's 14 days. We'll see if I have it mapped out, but because we're doing this round live, I'm going to have a little more flexibility to address specific things that are coming through. And so I might make a few custom audio clearings for if I see something coming up. I'll definitely be able to customize some audio so that you're getting exactly what you need. So join me. I would love to have you there. It's going to be such a fun group. I just know it. I know there are people who are waiting to dive into this work in a really simple, digestible, and light way. This isn't heavy, dense, scary, hard work. This is like me, who I see myself as like your buoy in the ocean of emotion. You're allowed to dive deep like a scuba diver. You get to go down, but I'm your buoy. I'm your flag at the top, like saying, hey, there might be waves, it might be choppy, it might be dark, but here there's clear, calm waters, there's sunshine, there's blue sky, and that you always get to come back to that space. And to do this with a group is so powerful. So let's do it together. I'm so excited. We're going to start this month of September. Alignful, alignful.com/audio, and you can sign up there. And of course, if you have any questions or you need any clarification, let me know. But I am not doing the traditional marketing process for this because my inner voice guided me in another direction. We're going to dive in, and it's going to be such a powerful experience because I know those of you who are ready. Let's freaking do it. So I will see you in the Emotions Decoded program. In the meantime, thank you as always for tuning in. And over the next couple of weeks, I do have some special mini podcast episodes that I'm going to release to give you more information about our 3 core topics, which is anxiety, sadness, and anger. I'm really excited to drop those here in the podcast for everyone. They're going to be very beneficial, but also very short and sweet, so that it gives you exactly what you need to help you understand, is this something that's present within me, and what's the best way to address it. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week on the Tuning In podcast, and hopefully later this month in the Emotions Decoded program. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Tuning In podcast. If you loved this episode, please rate and review it or share it with a friend. If you want to go deeper into the realm of emotions and learn the language of your body, check out my audio course, Emotions Decoded, at alignful.com/audio. As always, you can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans. See you next week.